Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today for this webinar. My name is Brad Prather. I work with DWD Technology Group, and we are a Sage 100 partner located in Indiana. We provide Sage 100 support services to companies throughout the Midwest, and we're always trying to find ways for Sage 100 users to become more efficient and get the most out of their software system. Today, our friends at Sage Software will be showing us how to use Sage Inventory Advisor to analyze inventory data, to identify where the biggest improvements can be made, produce quality forecasts, and suggest optimal replenishment recommendations. Before I get started here, just a couple housekeeping items. During the presentation, everybody will be on mute, so we will not be able to hear you, but there will be time at the end set aside for questions. So a couple ways to do that. If you look at your GoToWebinar control panel, kind of in the left-hand side, I believe you should see a circle. It's got a hand in it. If you click on that, that will tell us that you are raising your hand. And at the end of the presentation, we can unmute you and you can ask your question. Or if you look to your GoToWebinar, again, what I'm calling a control panel, and kind of go about halfway down, or maybe about 2/3 of the way down, you should see a section called questions. If you expand that, you can actually type your question in there, and we will see that as well, and we will get those answered at the end, as I say. So feel free to type those questions in as we go through the webinar as you're thinking of them, and we will answer those at the end. So today we have Tom Wilson from Sage Software who will be presenting our webinar, and I'm going to pass it on to Tom.
Hey, thanks, Brad. Well, hey, everyone. As Brad said, my name is Tom Wilson. I work for Sage, and I'm what's called the Product Sales Specialist for the Inventory Advisor solution. So my privilege to speak with you today. I really appreciate your time. Hey, what I have is a very short PowerPoint introduction that'll introduce the concepts of a planning tool, compare and contrast that to your Sage 100 ERP platform. Then I can pull up a live instance of Inventory Advisor where we'll do kind of a navigational tour. We'll start at a high level, drill down into little detail and some examples as we go. And then I'll wrap up with a couple of more slides that talk about the installation and the pricing of Inventory Advisor. And again, at the end, as Brad said, we'll leave plenty of time for some Q&A. So I'm going to start, again, with a short PowerPoint introduction. And I'm going to go to the next slide, and it says, what is Sage Inventory Advisor? And Inventory Advisor is an example of a connected service. And one of the things Sage is trying to do is to enhance the investment our customers have made in our ERP platforms, of which Sage 100 is one of our flagship products, by offering solutions that complement or extend that investment. And more, our customers are asking that these extensions be deployed in the cloud or internet-enabled environment so that you can access it 24/7 from any device, any browser. And because planning tools can be quite expensive, even price prohibitive if you were to pay the full license fee up front. So instead, Sage has put Inventory Advisor on a month-to-month subscription. There is no long-term commitment. In fact, the only commitment is the first month. If after the first month this doesn't meet your needs, you can cancel the subscription at any time. But it is a planning tool. It's an inventory planning tool designed to tap into the rich transactional data that's in your Sage 100 system, harness that, but pull it into an engine that's based on industry best practices and analytics for recommending inventory stocking and replenishment levels. So Inventory Advisor will work with one or many locations, but for any location, Inventory Advisor will show you what your current inventory is, recommend what it should be, given the demand for the items and lead time from the suppliers. It'll show you what your current inventory is, where you have too much, what impact that's having on your business. Are there any items you're out of or about to run out of? What impact could that have on customer service or sales? And is there anything that you need to make or buy to keep that inventory at optimal levels? And if you're making those kinds of decisions with manual tools, reports, and spreadsheets, this will automate that process. In fact, if you look at your current Sage 100 system, it does a really good job of keeping track of what your current inventory is, what is in stock, where the items are located, on-hand balances. It keeps track of open and outstanding purchase orders, open and outstanding work orders, any orders you have from your customers. It keeps track of thousands of transactions, hundreds of details from pricing and costing and everything in between. and you absolutely need a system to keep track of that level of detail to manage your inventory. But that system doesn't necessarily answer the question, what should be in stock? Again, lots of details on what is in stock, what is on order, vendors, but to determine what should be in stock, given the demand for the items, given lead time from the suppliers, compared to what is in stock, most of our customers have to make those decisions outside of Sage 100, usually in some kind of a manual tool, report, or spreadsheet, and that can not only be a daunting task, but it can result in some real inventory challenges. In fact, 42% of our customers have said they struggle with running out of items that could impact customer service or sales. 37% of our customers have said they struggle with overbuying, ending up with excess inventory, money tied up in working capital that could be used for other things. And 21% have said, in addition to those two problems, they just spend way too much time trying to figure out what that inventory should be, and is there something more robust and automated that will help with this process. And that's what Inventory Advisor brings to the table. It does not replace anything in Sage 100. It complements Sage 100. It needs data from Sage 100. But what Inventory Advisor brings to the table is inside the circle. And it starts first and foremost with a forecasting engine. It's pretty hard to determine what your inventory should be unless you have a profile of your demand moving forward. So it has a very robust forecast engine, and I'll showcase that in the software. It has an ordering and scheduling engine. So for every item, whether it's a finished good, a raw material, a component, for every item at every location, Inventory Advisor will recommend a minimum stocking level, a maximum stocking level. It'll calculate a reorder point. Then given the demand, compared to the stock on hand, compared to any orders you already have in the system, it will recommend when you do need to place additional orders, purchase orders for supplied items or work orders for manufactured items, to keep that inventory at optimal levels. And if you are starting to run out of an item or have too much, it will alert you, especially for those items that are critical to your business. The way it works is Inventory Advisor is a cloud-delivered service. So Sage will set up your instance of Inventory Advisor on a Sage-provided server, then set up a connection through the internet to your Sage 100 server. That connection is highly secure, the data is encrypted, there's keys on both ends, your instance of Inventory Advisor is unique to you. But on a daily basis, and if you want to run this more or less frequently, you can. Most of our customers load data once a day and plan their inventory in a 24-hour window. We have a few customers that load data more frequently, maybe twice or three times a day. We even have some customers that only load data once a week. But typically it's once a day, and you plan your inventory in a 24-hour window. But Inventory Advisor will connect to your Sage 100 system, and it'll upload several files. These are read-only files. They are encrypted. Takes about 10 minutes, but it'll upload your sales history, any orders you have in place with your suppliers, orders from your customers, on-hand balances. If you do any manufacturing, kitting, or assembly, it'll upload your bill of material file. Again, it takes about 10 minutes to extract that data from Sage 100 and load it into your instance of Inventory Advisor. Inventory Advisor will then disconnect from your Sage 100 system. That data will go into your instance of Inventory Advisor. It'll go through a series of calculations and analytics. Then, anyone that wants to access Inventory Advisor can. The subscription is for unlimited users. These users are not affiliated with your Sage 100 login, so you're not burning up a user ID. These are just people you want to give access to the planning tool. And the planning tool can be accessed from any browser, Internet Explorer, Safari, Chrome, any device that supports a browser. I've demonstrated this on my iPhone, my iPad. Today, I'll be in my home office. On my laptop, I'll be using Internet Explorer. But it just depends on what device and browser is most convenient for you. But you will be presented with a series of planning recommendations, starting with what we call a dashboard, which is a high-level summary. A summary of all the inventory at any location. Again, you can have one or many. But for any location, it'll show you what your inventory is, recommend what it should be, identify any items you have too much of, what impact that's having on your business, any items you're out of or about to run out of, what impact that could have on customer service or sales, and is there anything you need to make or buy to keep that inventory at optimal levels. So what Inventory Advisor is really doing is answering those two questions in the green box. First on the left, does anything need your attention? Are there items that are critical to your business that have issues or problems that you need to pay some attention to? And it'll bring those to your attention, giving you access and drill down capability into the information you need to make decisions. And is there anything you need to order? Work order to make an item, purchase order to supply an item. anything you need to order to keep that inventory at the optimal levels given demand and lead time moving forward. And to do that, it does bring several capabilities to the table above and beyond anything in Sage 100. Starting on the bottom right, again, a very robust forecast, and I'll showcase that in the software. But on the bottom left, this is a page out of an industry best practice for managing inventory. And what that is not all items contribute the same to your business. Some items contribute greater in value, other items contribute greater in inventory turns or volume. And the best practice is you want to identify which items contribute the most to your business so that you can deal with them if something's happening to them, but you might want to set more aggressive replenishment policies to ensure that you don't run out. But it starts by identifying the item. So by loading some data from Sage 100, along with some rules you set up, you can identify the item based on its value as either an A, B, or C item. Now the default, and this is easily changed, is an A item is considered those that generate 80% of the value to your business. Typically, it's an 80-20 rule where 20% of the items are generating 80% of the value. B's are the next 16%, and C's are the bottom 4. Now those are easily changed, but Inventory Advisor will rank based on the rules you set up, the items that are A's, B's, and C's. Then it will rank the same item though, but this time based on its inventory turns or volume. And that produces a 3x3 matrix, and every item is going to fall into one of those 9 boxes, which is the intersection of an A, B, or C row and a high, medium, or low column. So the boxes in the upper right, the green ones, those are your bread and butter items. Those are the items that contribute the most to your business, move the fastest, so you might want to set more aggressive replenishment policies for those items, and you certainly want to be alerted if something's happening to those items. But again, it does start by identifying those items, and you'll see that throughout the software, how each item contributes to your business. What most of our customers have told us when they do turn this on is of their existing inventory, typically 2 to 10% is in some kind of a stocked out status. Either you're out of an item or about to run out of an item, which could impact customer service or sales. 10 to 15% of existing inventory is in some kind of a surplus status, where you have more inventory than you need and money tied up in working capital. And roughly half of a planner's time is not necessarily spent making planning decisions, but spent pulling together all the information you need, running reports, maintaining spreadsheets, so that you can make planning decisions. So this will absolutely not replace the planner, the knowledge, the expertise that you have in your business, but it will replace the manual tools with something much more robust and automated, so that you can spend your valuable time focused on the items that need your attention and placing optimal orders to keep your inventory at optimal levels. And if you can address any or all 3 of those areas, if you can eliminate or reduce excess inventory and free up working capital, if you can eliminate or reduce stockouts and improve customer service and sales, if you can give planners better, more timely information so they can focus their attention on the critical issues, the ROI against a monthly subscription can be quite substantial. So I'm going to switch gears, and I am going to pull up a live instance of Inventory Advisor. Bear with me one second. And if you follow my little cursor, I'm wiggling it in the upper left. I am on a live instance of Inventory Advisor. Now I am connected through the internet using Internet Explorer, but I'm on a live instance. It has demonstration data. Inventory Advisor is highly scalable. We have customers with less than $100,000 of inventory planning with this tool. We've got customers with over 50 million. My demo database happens to have about 10 million, just to give you a feel for the scale. But I'm going to go ahead and shrink the menu bar so that we can see the full screen. And when you first log on to Inventory Advisor, you do see what is called a dashboard. And a dashboard is that high-level summary, a summary of all the inventory at this stocking location. I'm looking at my Los Angeles stocking location, but if I click my dashboard button, you'll be able to see all of the locations. These are locations set up in Sage 100, loaded in the Inventory Advisor, but these are all of the locations that you're planning inventory in Inventory Advisor. Now, in my demo database, I have 4 physical stocking locations. Los Angeles is a standalone location. It stores inventory and replenishes from suppliers. My Chicago warehouse does the same thing. It stores inventory and replenishes from suppliers. But in addition, we've set it up as a central warehouse because in addition, it supports my remote branches. So New York and Detroit do store inventory, but they do not replenish from the suppliers. They replenish from the central warehouse. So all of the demand for each of the items needs to pass up to the central warehouse so it can consolidate that with the demand from the central warehouse so it can place appropriate orders on the suppliers, and then it'll issue transfer recommendations back to the remote locations. So you can set up lots of different ways. You can even plan at a virtual location. But just to show a few concepts, I'm going to pick on my Los Angeles warehouse, and when I do, I am looking at the dashboard for all of the inventory that's currently in Los Angeles. And the idea of the dashboard is, with a quick glance, to really bring to your attention and answer that first question in the green box: does anything need your attention? And it's laid out in several panels. The first is called stock holding, and it shows that right now in Los Angeles you are carrying $10.4 million of inventory at your cost. The planning tool is recommending you should be carrying 6.2. That would be the optimal inventory given the demand for the items and lead times from the suppliers to fulfill that demand. I can see how my inventory has been trending over time. Each of these bars represents a period of time. There are 12, and they can be displayed in days, weeks, or months. So I can see how my inventory has been trending over the last 12 days, the last 12 weeks, the last 12 months. I'm just going to leave it at weeks, and here's how your inventory has been trending over the last 12 weeks. 12 weeks ago, in yellow, if I hover, you are carrying $10.8 million of inventory. I can see how it's been trending. The top of the blue bar is your actual inventory. The shaded area is the model or recommended inventory. So I can see how the actual to recommended inventory has been trending, in this case over the last weeks, with red simply being the last time data was loaded from Sage 100, which typically was yesterday, at which time you were carrying 10.4 against a recommendation of 6.2. So with a quick glance, I can see I've got quite a bit more inventory than the planning tool is recommending. In fact, if I slide over to the next panel, you do have some excess stock in Los Angeles, and that is defined as inventory above the maximum recommended stocking levels. Right now, there are over 2,000 items in excess, and just the value of the excess inventory is costing your business $3.4 million. And if I hover where it says full report, if I click there, I will get an online report of all those items that are currently in excess. So I've gone from the dashboard, I simply clicked on that full report, and now I'm looking at a report of every item in Los Angeles that is currently in excess. Now, the default is it's sorted based on the value of the excess inventory in descending order, but I can change that. I can change the sort on any of the columns. If I scroll down, I can see this entire report. I can always export that to a spreadsheet. But what we're finding is more and more of our customers are using less reliance on spreadsheets and doing more analysis online. So if I come up here, again, I can look at any one of these items on the report. I can see the item. Now, because it's green, that means I can drill into a lot of detail. And we'll do that in a minute. But this item, here is its description. Now, this item, out of that classification, this is a C item out of the ABC for value. It is a low turning item out of the high, medium, and low for turning. So it's one of the lower value items to the business. Here is your primary supplier. According to Sage 100, your on-hand balance is 300 units at a cost of $329 each. You are carrying $99,000. Inventory Advisor is saying that you have excess. In fact, you have 272 units more than you need. And I can look at every item on this sheet. I can change my sort order. I can drill into detail. But hey, this is kind of a big list. Maybe I want to pare it down to a little more manageable list. So if I don't want to look at every item in excess, maybe I'll come over here and apply a filter. And maybe I want to look at just the age of the items. Or maybe I want to look at certain values. Maybe I only want to look at a certain product or a certain supplier. Maybe I only want to look at groups of items. So based on any field in Sage 100, you can group your items. Maybe you want to group based on product type. Maybe you want to group on product line. But I can also sort based on those item classifications. Hey, I'm looking at a list of excess inventory. If I have some A items that are high turning and they're in excess, may not be the end of the world. But if I've got C items that are low turning, those might sit around forever. So let's go see which of my C items that are low turning, go see which of those are in excess. Let's apply that filter. And it turns out that 522 items meet the criteria excess and are my C and low turning items. So that might be a list of items I really want to attack from an excess perspective and start to burn down. So I can get all of the information, slice, dice, filter, but back on the dashboard, out of all those items, we're trying to bring your attention to the top 5. These 5 items are the biggest contributor to your excess problem in Los Angeles. These 5 items alone are costing you $265,000 in excess inventory. Almost 10% of your excess problem is not 2,000 items, it's these 5. So if you do nothing else on a daily, weekly basis, you might want to really keep your eyes on all of these top 5 lists, because they're the items that need your attention and that would have the biggest impact to your business to resolve. But that's where you have too much inventory right now. I want to give you a heads up, a little more proactive. Here are some orders in Sage 100, either work orders or purchase orders, but these are orders in the system, and Inventory Advisor has identified 413 items on order and is predicting that when they arrive are going to generate another $1.6 million in excess inventory. We call these surplus orders, and those are orders you might want to review because they are candidates to maybe delay or even cancel the order. And the idea would be to stop it in advance of it arriving and adding to your excess problem. So the first 3 panels are giving you visibility to where you have too much inventory. The next 3 panels are looking at the opposite side of the coin. Are there any items you don't have enough of? And it starts with what we call fill rate, which is over the last 30 days, did you have an item in stock or not to meet your demand? And right now you're achieving an 87% fill rate, meaning 87% of the time if you needed an item in Los Angeles, you had it. And you're doing it with $10.4 million of inventory. But you could be achieving a 97% target with a whole lot less inventory if you had the right items in the right quantities in stock. So clearly we don't. We have too much of the wrong items. But because we're not meeting our fill rate targets, there's other items we don't have enough of. In fact, there's some items in Los Angeles that we're completely out of, stocked out, none in stock. 924 items with no inventory. But there's demand on those items. So until you replenish, which is either until the next order arrives, if there's an order in the system, or full lead time if you have to place an order from scratch. But during the window where you have no inventory with demand, you're at risk of not being able to fulfill that demand, and that could result in poor customer service or even lost sales. Doesn't mean you'll lose a sale, but it could be as much as $760,000 in lost sales. Again, I can look at all 924. I can see the list. Again, here are your top 5. These 5 items alone are putting you at risk of $220,000 in potential lost sales. Over a third of that problem is not 900 items, it's these 5. So again, if you do nothing else on a daily basis, here's 5 items you might really want to pay some attention to, drill into the details, see what's going on so that you can make some decisions. And we'll do just that in a moment. But that's where you're out right now. Want to give you another heads up. Here are some items that you currently do have some inventory in stock, but we're predicting before you can replenish, you will run out. And when you do, you could lose another $113,000 in sales. So day in the life, I can come in, toggle between locations, but for any location, I can very quickly see what my inventory is, what the tool recommends it should be, where do I have too much inventory, what impact is it having on my business, which are the most critical to pay some attention to, are there any items I'm out of or about to run out of, what impact could that have on customer service or sales, which are the most critical to pay some attention to. So from here, I could do a lot of things. I might want to look at a few of these items that were brought to my attention so I can get some information and make some decisions, and we'll do just that. Or I might go to that second green box. Hey, Tom, just show me everything I need to make or buy today, and we'll do that in a minute. But let's start by drilling into an item. I want to look at this most important item on this page, in my opinion, is this first item in the stocked out list. I'm out of this item. And if I hover, here's the item description. The little shadow simply says someone has left a comment. Now, this is an A item. Out of my value, it is high turning out of my turns, so it's one of the most important items to my business. I'm currently out. While I'm out, given the demand, I'm at risk of $62,000 in sales. I've got some decisions to make, but I need some information. So let's open it up and see what's going on. So by clicking on the item, it'll take me to the detail for this item. Now, the detail is the same for every item at every location in terms of how it's laid out. On any given day, I may not need the detail, but it's there if you need it. But this item, as it currently sits in Los Angeles, is stocked out. So Inventory Advisor is going to show you what your current inventory is, which is literally data from Sage 100, and then it's going to recommend what your inventory should be. So because I'm stocked out, let's go look at some of the data from Sage 100. According to Sage 100, stock on hand for this item in Los Angeles, sure enough, I am stocked out. In fact, I have 133 on back order, none that are promised or allocated. So right now, my available inventory is negative 133. So bad news, I'm stocked out. Worse, I've even got some back orders, and it's an A and high turning item. But the good news, and probably the first thing I'd want to know is, do I have anything on, now this is a purchased item, do I have anything on purchase order as we speak? And the answer is yes. There are 1,080 units on order with the Sorrel Auto Parts Group, and when those 1,080 arrive, less your back orders, your inventory position will be 947. So I guess my first question is, what is the status of those orders? Are they coming in today, tonight? If so, I'm probably not as concerned about this stock out. So I don't have to go back to Sage 100 and look that up. What's the status of that order? If I come down, I have several tabs, and one of them is what is currently on purchase order. If it was a manufactured item, what is currently on work order? So let's go look at the purchase orders in place for this item. And according to Sage 100, there are 4. Here's when they were placed, quantities, and most importantly, when they're expected to arrive. And I can very quickly see when those items are coming in. If they're coming in again today or tomorrow, I'm probably not as concerned about the stock out. It's going to resolve itself quickly. If not, I might want to see if I could expedite one of these orders. Now, if that doesn't work, and if I have this item at another location, it might be nice to know if I've got some surplus somewhere else. So this is this item in Los Angeles. Let's go hit my location tab and see what this one item looks like at any of the other locations it's stocked at. We carry it in New York, and I'm about to stock out. We carry it in Detroit, and I am stocked out. We know we're in Los Angeles, and we are stocked out. But hey, I carry this item in my Chicago warehouse, and I've got some surplus coming in. So if I drill into my Chicago warehouse, I'll be able to see all the details on this item in Chicago, and I might have some surplus that I could move to LA in the interim. So I have visibility to information to make decisions. So this item was brought to our attention. We looked at some details. We found out we have some orders in the system when they're coming in, and we might have some surplus in Chicago to move as an ultimate backup plan. So that's what your inventory is. Now let's talk about the power of the planning tool and what your inventory should be. Pretty hard to determine what your inventory should be unless you know the demand of that item moving forward. So Inventory Advisor will automatically load the sales history for every item. You can have up to 5 years. This item has 27 months of sales history, and that was loaded from Sage 100 into Inventory Advisor and represented graphically in blue. Inventory Advisor is going to compare that pattern in blue to 15 different forecasting methods, and it's going to test each one. Things like linear regression, exponential smoothing, sum of the year's digits. It's going to look for trends, patterns, spikes, outliers. And based on the pattern in blue for this item, Inventory Advisor selected the best profile to predict demand moving forward is a seasonal profile. So Inventory Advisor loaded the sales history, selected the best forecasting method, and used it to create a computer-generated forecast for the next 12 months, which is represented graphically in yellow. Now, if you want to drill into that yellow and make some adjustments, you certainly can. Maybe you've got a promotion on this item. Maybe you're phasing this item out and you want to adjust the forecast up or down. You certainly can. In any event, Inventory Advisor will track how is the forecast doing against actual sales, and it will alert you to any item whose forecast needs review. So a very robust forecast. Now, the next thing that Inventory Advisor is going to recommend is what is the minimum stock you should be carrying for this item. We actually call it a safety stock, but the reason you want that is things happen. Customers order more than you think. Suppliers don't always deliver on time or don't always deliver the right quantities. So you want to protect yourself from that risk, but you don't want it so big that you start to see excess buildup. Now you can go into Sage 100 and set your own minimum stocking level, but the question is, how did you calculate it and how often do you update it, especially across hundreds and thousands of items, and even worse if you're in a multi-indented bomb structure. So inventory, and most of our customers tell us it's kind of a best guess, and they don't update it very often. Well, Inventory Advisor is going to recommend that minimum based on several very dynamic inputs. And one of those is you might want to set a much more aggressive target for those items that contribute more to your business. It's absolutely going to look at the lead time. How long does it take to get this item from the supplier? Now, that can be pulled in from Sage 100, either at the item or supplier level. This item was imported at 90 days. So when you place an order on this item with this supplier, you can expect it to arrive in 90 days. But does it? What if this supplier doesn't deliver on time? What if they don't deliver the right quantity? Then you should probably increase your safety stock. So Inventory Advisor is going to go get some more data from Sage 100, and it's going to pull it into my Supplier Performance tab. How is this supplier performing? Do they deliver on time? Do they deliver the right quantity? I can see that graphically, or here are the actual transactions from Sage 100 on the purchases you placed with this supplier. And it turns out this supplier is doing pretty good. They're just about spot on the stated lead time. So pretty low risk that they're not going to deliver on time. But it's going to look at the forecast to sales accuracy. If you're over forecasted, it'll factor that in as well. But based on all of that, Inventory Advisor is recommending that you keep 122 days of this item as your minimum or safety stock. Well, what in the world does that mean? Tom, I want to know how much of this item I need to stock and when I need to replenish. And that all comes together in my policy panel. And Inventory Advisor is going to look at it in both days of coverage and transpose it into units. So let's start with days. This is a textbook and simple equation. When you take your lead time, imported from Sage 100, and add it to your safety stock, just calculated by Inventory Advisor, together that equals your reorder point. And the idea is you want to place an order a lead time before you hit your safety stock. So when you go below 212 days of coverage for this item, you should place an order. Well, for what period do I place the order for? We call that a replenishment cycle. You might want to set that more aggressively for your higher value items. The idea would be place smaller, more frequent orders. Maybe the slower moving items, maybe you only want to place one order every 6 months. But this item, whenever you place an order, place it to cover 7 days. So when I go below 212, place an order for 7 more, which gets me to my max. So in days of coverage, here is my minimum recommended stocking level, here is my reorder point, and here is my maximum stocking level. But the question is, how does that transpose into units? How many units do you need to cover 90 days of lead time, to cover 122 days of safety stock? Well, it depends on your forecast over here in yellow. So based on this forecast, you need 684 units just to meet your demand over lead time. So now in units, driven off the forecast, here is your recommended minimum stocking level, your reorder point, and your maximum stocking level. And Inventory Advisor does that every day for every item at every location. And then it will compare it to what your current inventory is. Well, again, good news, I have 1,080 on order, which is going to bring me to 947, but that's already below your reorder point. So even though you have some POs in the system, you should place an additional one so that you don't run out moving forward. And the order you should place is enough to get back up to your max, which is Inventory Advisor's recommending an order for 295 units. And if I want to see how that projects over the next 12 months, Inventory Advisor is going to try to keep you within your mins and maxes at an optimal level. And here's when you can expect to place orders on this item. Now, do I have to go look up every item to see if I need to place an order? Absolutely not. This is just one item. And why were we looking at this item? Because it was brought to our attention on the dashboard that this was a critical item to our business. It's currently stocked out, and it could cost us some sales if we don't resolve the stock out. So we drilled into the item. We found out some information. We found out we have some POs in the system, when they were coming in. We've got some surplus we could move in from Chicago. We found some information so that we can make some decisions. In addition, we found out that we need to place an order so we don't run out moving forward. So I have access to visibility information to make decisions, especially on the critical items. But now I'm ready to say, hey, Tom, just show me everything like this item that I either need to order, either work order or purchase order. I want to see one comprehensive list of everything I need to order. And with one click, show me everything I need to order, and I can order it for any one of my locations. We'll pick on Los Angeles again, but show me everything I need to order for Los Angeles across all my suppliers, and here's the list. This is a list of every item that has triggered its reorder point broken out by supplier. So for example, the consolidated tire supplier. Inventory Advisor is recommending that you place 4 items on order with this supplier. Now, you may order 100 items from this supplier, but today 4 have triggered its reorder point. It's recommending 3,300 units at a cost of $231,000. And if you had cubic feet and weight, it would add those up for you, which might be helpful if you're trying to fill up a truck or a container. But now this is a purchased supplier. Inventory Advisor is recommending you purchase 4 items from this supplier. So as a purchasing manager, if you want to review that recommendation, maybe drill into some detail, make some adjustments, all I have to do is select this supplier, and let's go look at those 4 items. But ultimately, I do want to create a PO. And if you follow my cursor, this is the recommended order for the consolidated tire supplier for my Los Angeles warehouse. Here's that same recommendations, units, cost, weight. But now for each one of those 4 items, I can see a summary of that item's detail. I can see the forecast. I can see that detail, lead time, safety stock, on hand, on orders. If I want to see what's on hand at those other locations, I can do it from here as well. So before I place this order, let's go see if I have any surplus. So I have visibility to that. This is an A item, it's high turning. Inventory Advisor is recommending you place 2,600 units on order at a cost of $64 each. It's going to cost $171,000, and with a lead time of 90 days, you could expect it to arrive on October 10th. Now, if this isn't enough information to validate the recommendation to place 2,600 on order, you can always drill into the detail from here. So let's do just that. In fact, I'm going to go from the recommended order, I'm going to even do it in a new window, to the detail on that one item, so I can get a little more information before I agree to this order. And now I'm looking at that same detail screen, but for the item that I was looking at on the recommended order screen. Now, let me just point out a little bit about this item. This item is a raw material. It goes into many different finished goods. This item not only is a raw material, but it's also a part that can be sold as a standalone part. So it has multiple demand streams. So ST9501, because it was flagged as part of a bill of material, my little bill of material flag came on, and when I click on that, I can see the world through the lens of ST9501. It is a raw material. It goes into these 3 finished goods. So how much of this raw material to have in stock depends on the demand for the finished goods it goes into, at its bill of material ratio back down to this item. Well, Inventory Advisor isn't just planning at that simple level. It's planning across your full multi-indented BOM structure, so it's planning all the components and subcomponents. But just to keep the illustration simple, how much ST9501 do we need? Well, again, it depends on the demand for the 3 finished goods it goes into. Well, let's look at that. Here are those 3 finished goods. Let's switch views. Inventory Advisor has loaded the sales history for each one of those finished goods. You can adjust it, make changes to it. But for the forecast for this first item, exploded through the bill of material at a ratio of 3 to 1, I need 3 of this raw material to go into one of those BQ1855Cs. Given the demand for BQ1855C, I need 2,000 of my raw material in the month of November just to meet the demand for this finished good. We'll do the same thing for the second and the third finished good to give you your total bill of material demand. Here's all of the demand for this raw material given the demand of the finished goods it goes into. And that is the top half of my forecast. But remember, this item can also be sold by itself. It has its own sales history. It has its own demand, which is represented by the sales history in blue, its standalone demand in yellow. And if I hover, sales history is the standalone demand or the independent demand. Forecast is the independent forecast. Bill of material forecast is the demand for when this item goes into many finished goods. Total forecast then is the total aggregate demand for all of the uses of this item. So I have a total aggregate demand. We're going to recommend a safety stock. Here is my min, reorder point, and max. We're going to compare it to what your current inventory is. And here's how Inventory Advisor is recommending 2671. Now, as a purchasing manager, you may know some things that Inventory Advisor doesn't. Maybe you've got a promotion on one of these finished goods. You can always go change that forecast and it'll adjust the recommendation. But before you do that, I just want to change the recommendation. So let's go back to the recommended purchase. And based on my analysis, based on my knowledge and talking with my peers and counterparts, I want to bump this one up to 3,000. So I'm going to change the recommendation and I'm going to tab out. And now I just added 329 units at a cost of $21,000. Here's the cubic feet in weight. And this is what the order would look like if I placed it now. And you can review each of the items that Inventory Advisor is recommending you order, drilling into detail if you need it, making adjustments if you want to, and if you even want to add other items. These are just the items that Inventory Advisor has recommended you order. If you want to add some additional items, you can. Those are the items that have not yet triggered a reorder point, but I can still add them to this order. But when you're ready to place this as a purchase order, all you have to do is hit the download button, and this will be extracted as a file and imported directly into the purchase order module. That's done through the visual integrator. Now, you'll still need to execute the PO. Any rules, procedures, workflows, approval processes still apply in PO, but you're making your decisions on what to stock in Inventory Advisor, using your knowledge and expertise, making your decisions, and then you're sending those as instructions back to the purchase order module to execute. Now, work order is similar. If it's a manufactured item, Inventory Advisor will suggest what to make. The one difference is with Inventory Advisor, when you hit the download button, that'll produce a report, and then you'll need to key in the work orders in Sage 100. With purchase orders, you can send them as a file transfer. With work orders, you have to type them in. But what you'll start to see as you use a tool like this is you'll start to see your inventory trend towards the model. As you manage your excess stock, catch it before it becomes excess, you'll start to reduce your excess inventory and free up working capital. As you eliminate stockouts, catch them before they happen, place optimal orders, you'll start to see your stockouts reduce, improving customer service and sales. And giving planners better, more timely information will allow them to focus on the items that need their attention and place optimal orders. And if you can impact any or all three of those, again, the return on investment against a monthly subscription can be quite substantial. So with that, I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint. And let's talk a little bit about the pricing. So first of all, Inventory Advisor is a cloud-delivered service. It is a month-to-month subscription. There is no long-term commitment. The only commitment is the first month. If after the first month it doesn't meet your needs, you can cancel at any time. And it is for unlimited users. As many people can access the planning tool as you want. There is a one-time setup of $2,250, and that covers our cost of setting up your instance of Inventory Advisor on a Sage server, setting up the connector to your Sage 100 server, loading your data, and providing some training and consulting services to get you up and running. Then there is a month-to-month subscription, and it's based on two components. There is a base fee of $199, which covers the first $250,000 of inventory you're planning in Inventory Advisor. Then we have what's called a value fee, which is based on a rate for every $250 additional $1,000 of inventory you're planning in the tool. And that's how we keep this scalable across our smaller and larger customers. So if you had $1 million of inventory, you would be in the $22.50 rate for every $250,000. And that would equate, this is a live calculator, so let me go run it. With $1 million of inventory, your monthly fee, which includes the base fee, plus 3 additional increments of $250,000 at $250,000 at $2,250 each, totals your monthly fee is $266.50. Your only commitment, if you sign up for the service, is the first month. I lost my cursor. Is the first month plus the setup fee for a total of $2,516. So if you sign up for the service, the only thing you're committing to is that. Then every month you use the service, Sage will charge you the $266 every month, but any month after the first month, if this doesn't meet your needs, you can cancel at any time. But it is, because it is a cloud-delivered service, it is a very rapid implementation. So for that $2,250, there are 5 onboarding steps. Now the first 2 steps go pretty quick. My team will set up your instance of Inventory Advisor, set up your connector to your server, and load your data. So within about an hour, I'm not kidding, within about an hour, you'll be able to see your data in your instance of Inventory Advisor. But there's still a lot to do. And one of the first things you're going to want to do is there is a very comprehensive report that comes out of Inventory Advisor that identifies the purity of the data you just loaded into it. So it's going to check for things like, hey, do you have overdue and outstanding purchase orders? Do you have items with negative on-hand balances? Do you have items with no lead times? Do you have items that have cost price greater than your selling price? So it's going to point out items that have issues or anomalies for your review, and you might want to go back to Sage 100 and clean that up. And then you'll have a couple of renditions reloading until you get that where you're comfortable that the data is accurate. Then you're going to want to take some training. As many people can take the training as many times as they want. It's delivered online. If you took it start to finish, you could probably complete it anywhere from about 5 to 8 hours. Then after you take the training, you're going to have some questions. You'll want to spend some time with my technical team. Any questions, fair game. you probably need 3 or 4 of those sessions. But realistically, you're probably looking at anywhere from 25 to 30 hours of your time, usually taking place over a 2 to 4 week time frame to get up and running. And then you're live and you're running on the software. The monthly subscription includes a gold level support plan, so you have unlimited support to Inventory Advisor, and you can even get support from lots of places. There's help tools in the software. There's even an instant message screen right in the software where you can get an instant message session, since it's an online service, with the technical team. And they can look at the same data you're looking at and talk to you in an IM session. So lots of ways to get help and support. But again, realistically, you're looking at about 25 to 30 hours over a 2 to 4 week time frame, and you're up and running and live on the software. So we're getting close to about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to wrap this up, and I want to put one final screen. Here's a link if you want to get some more information from the Sage website on Inventory Advisor. But here's my name and contact information. Again, Tom Wilson. There's my phone number and my email. So again, I'll field some questions now, but if you'd like to have maybe a more one-on-one session or have a follow-on session with a larger group, I'd be delighted to do that. So feel free to reach out to me and let me know, or by all means, reach out to the team at DWD. I think Brad was going to give his email as well. So if you want to reach out to them, and then they can contact me. But either way, I'd be delighted to set up a follow-on. So Brad and Sherry, I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions. And I'm not seeing any online. So Sherry, I don't know if you want to unmute the phones in case anyone has any questions.
Okay. It looks like Tammy has her hand raised. Tammy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
My question is, how does the Inventory Advisor handle inventory in transit that has long lead times from overseas supplier?
Okay, so when you hang on one second. Let me pull the software back up again. So when I'm looking at an item, Inventory Advisor is factoring in what is currently on order and is absolutely paying attention to the dates of when those orders are going to arrive. So it knows you're getting 224 units on August 5th. It knows you're getting 224 units on September 14th, and it's factoring all those dates. So this is literally in transit, and it's factoring all those dates into its recommendations. It's also factoring any real sales orders and their dates into its recommendation, and we'll compare all of that to the forecast. So it's not only looking at what's on order, but when it's coming in.
Tammy, does that answer your question, or do you want to expand anything?
No, that's fine. It answers my question.
Great. So one of the other attendees just wrote a comment that she thinks this solution looks brilliant. So that's very positive.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And like I said, because it is a month-to-month service, it's really easy to get up and running. Not that money, the setup fee or the monthly fee is trivial by any means, but it is easy to get started, easy to test it out, and for any reason it just doesn't work, it's easy to cancel if it doesn't meet your needs without a big upfront investment. So it really is a neat tool, and if you take a little time to learn how to use it, you will absolutely see the benefits in excess inventory and stockouts.
Okay, we've got one other question. They're asking about, is there a specific version of Sage 100 that you need to be running to have this integrate with it?
Yes, so Inventory Advisor supports all the way back to Sage 100 4.3 and above. So as long as you're on 4.3 and above, you're good to go. We can connect to any of those versions. And one of the neat things is because it is a cloud-delivered service, we'll set up your instance of Inventory Advisor on a Sage server and connect to your Sage 100 server. And so in the Sage Inventory Advisor server, there's what's called a script, and that script identifies what version of Sage 100 you're running. So if down the road you upgrade to a new release or a new version of Sage 100, all you have to do is tell my team and they will change the script to reflect what version you're on, and that's all there is to Inventory Advisor. So it is non-impactful and does not change your ability to upgrade to a current release. It's a non-issue. It takes about 10 minutes on the Inventory Advisor side to change when you're done upgrading to a new release of Sage 100. So it's very agnostic from that perspective.
Great. Well, I don't see any other questions at this time. Brad, do you have anything? Oh, it looks like Brad was trying to speak, but somehow he is muted. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Just a big thank you to everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules. I think Tom provided us all with some great information, and if you have any further questions or would like to see the solution in further detail, you can either contact Tom or Brad, and we will be sending an email that has a recording of this presentation to everybody in the next few days. So thank you all for attending.
Thanks.